Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode. In fact, episode 3 of another podcast. Let's Tech About It is what we're calling it. I'm Ayush Alavadi and I'm joined by Aman Shet all the way in LA. I'm here in Bombay. And of course, from the AM to the PM, we have only one agenda. Like any other tech geek, just like you, if you're tuned in, if you're that one viewer and that one listener who actually tunes in, well, we have that one agenda to discuss things that are happening in the tech world. And of course, today is a very special episode. So basically, boss, I got a DM from a guy who's been, watching some of my shows in the past on Bloomberg and CNBC, and he's seen my tech coverage, and he accused me and you, without knowing you, of being Apple fanboys. Are we Apple fanboys? I mean, because the first 2 episodes made us sound like Apple fanboys, apparently.
Yeah, I've been getting that as well, and it's unfortunate because we're not Apple fanboys. We just happen to be. It just happened to be that we're in the ecosystem and we happen to use their products, but we're not Apple fanboys. We appreciate good technology, and I think what we want to tell everyone is that you guys need to understand the way you guys use tech and find the best product that works for your use case.
Correct.
And it just so happens that we land up using Apple products
It
because
just
they
so
work
happens
for
that
us.
Aman and I have also gone and picked up an Apple product. Oh God, Aman, you
Another
copied
one.
me again.
Oh God!
I'll tell you what.
We've fallen in this trap, but
We've fallen in a trap. It's even people in my family be making fun of us about it. But then what we can do is we burn our fingers. So it's an Indian proverb, right? If the father has burnt his fingers, the son shouldn't do the same thing. So all
Right.
our lovely sons tuned in, let them not make the same mistakes as you and I, right? So.
Right.
I'm not going to sound like an Apple fanboy to put it out over there, guys. Let's put it out in the universe. Aman and I love the Sony PlayStation for its gaming capabilities. We love Android phones. We love the OnePlus phone. We love Samsung TVs. And we like a few Apple devices. And we've used other devices, wearables or smartwatches or trackers. And that's the sort of dilemma we want to solve for you today,
Right.
which is, Aman, you're going to take it from here. Smartwatch, wearable, fitness tracker, someone in the market in 2021 with the plethora of options out there. How do they break this down and how do they make that purchase decision?
Right. So, before we go into things like price and technical specifications, I think there's 3 sort of overall categories or 3 parts to your wearable technology or wearable wrist technology that we need to talk about, right? You have the first part, which is basic connectivity to your phone, right? You want to get your notifications, messages, calls, all of that good stuff, right? That's the first part to it. The second part to it that is, I think very important, given that we're living in a pandemic, right, is health and fitness tracking, and more so catered to health tracking. And then you have your ECG, blood oxygen levels, things like that, heart rate monitoring, sleep monitoring, stress monitoring. All of that becomes an important part of the fitness and health aspect of this wearable tech. And then you have the third part, which is sport tracking, right? Which is mainly focused around GPS and tracking of outdoor activities like cycling, swimming, running, hiking, and that becomes this third part of the wearable tech. And I'm not talking about products. I'm just talking about the 3 parts that build, or the 3 things that people need to think about what is important for them before they make the decision.
Okay, so you're talking about essentially what Aman is saying is building blocks. He's very nicely put out the 3 building blocks of wearable tech, or especially wearable tech on your wrist, because that's what our generation seems to have become obsessed with. If you read articles and reports, you'll find out that, well, Swiss watchmakers are really struggling now, and a lot of them want to become smart watchmakers. And we've seen some, which Aman and I will discuss with you as well. But just if someone goes on Amazon or on Best Buy or even goes on one of the retail stores here in India, they will actually come across these they'll click on a wearable, the tab opens, they'll be like, okay, we know these brands. Okay, Apple, okay, Samsung, okay, these sound a little familiar. And then there'll be a bunch of Chinese watches. Now, we need to make it very clear in the next next few minutes to the audience and for the audience that there are limitations with some of them, and some of them are actually, well, an extension of your smartphone. Some of them function very well independently of your smartphone, and it doesn't matter which smartphone you have. Some of them function better if you're on a particular operating system. Some of them don't have an app store. So if I break it down, and we're going to iron it out as we proceed, let's start off with the three big contenders who do sort of similar things, but yes, there are 19-20 ka farak. There's a little bit of difference, like I say, right? The first one goes, obviously, well, the Apple Watch. But we'll tell you what we did wrong and what we did right with this purchase. The second one is the Samsung Galaxy Watch. I think the Galaxy Watch 3 and the Active are the two functioning out there. Very interesting, circular design. And then there's this very special contender which is tough to source in India, but is doing really well around the world, which is the Ticwatch. Now, this is one bucket of them. Then we have, of course, a new ecosystem being built with Oppo, and then OnePlus maybe coming up with something, Huawei, which is kind of weird to spend so much on such a nice watch because, well, Google's not going to give them any access, and you can't get one in America really that easily. Yeah, and then you have the Fitbits and the Garmins, the original, the OG fitness guys.
They're the ones that started this, right? Like they were the ones that came out and said, guys, you need to track your fitness, you need to track your movement, you need to track your calories. So they started this whole trend of wearable tech, or at least wearable wrist tech. So your Fitbits, your Garmins, which I have to say are amazing, and everyone knows Garmin from your old school before you had Google Maps in your phone, right? You used to have the Garmin GPS system in a car, right? And when you rented a car, you always paid extra to make sure you have that Garmin. So you know that that's the best tech you could possibly get when it comes to GPS tracking.
No, that's true. So essentially, Aman, let's start off with the big dogs. The Apple Watch in its current rendition, actually right now in the Apple Store, you're going to get the Apple Watch Series 6, you get the SE, and the Series 3 is still available. Now, these guys are available in cellular, and then they're available in GPS. They're really expensive, but they only work on iPhone. Should we quickly wrap up what actually works with them and what doesn't, and then move on to the Samsung Galaxy Watch, and then give us an introduction with your experience with the Ticwatch and what you think makes it the dark horse in this race?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Apple Watch, you're by and large, you're limited to an Apple ecosystem. If you have an iPhone, you basically want to get the Apple Watch. Well, you don't want to get it. That's, I would say, the top of the line, right? Because it's going to be extremely in sync. It's going to be, all your notifications are going to come right. Your phone and your watch are constantly talking to each other. But that's also because your watch is not a standalone watch. It is linked to your phone, and it will always be linked to your phone. I can quickly talk about the prices. I mean, it's close to, it starts at $399, and then as you take a few options, the different sizes, add Wi-Fi, GPS, I spent about $550 on mine.
Aman's a rich man, and that's the Series 6, which is a lot more expensive. I think nearly 15 to 20,000 rupees more expensive here in India. Of course, we also get eSIM support. So what that means is what makes it very special, and that also works in the other two contenders that we're talking about. And we'll be putting a few visuals for you guys up on YouTube as well. But when you talk about the Apple Watch, the eSIM becomes an extension of your SIM. So in India, if you have a Vodafone or a Jio SIM, the same number for no extra cost. In other countries, they do charge you. In India, for now, they don't charge you.
I'm charged out here.
How much are you paying?
I have to pay an extra $5 if I want cellular on my watch.
That's a lot. That's around as much as the entire bill of a person out here in India, right? I mean, that's how much the bill is on Vodafone nearly, unless you get really conned by them on one of their bad schemes or bad plans. But Vodafone or Jio as an extension get you an eSIM. It's really simple. An eSIM, guys, it's not a physical SIM. It is just you sign in with your Apple ID, and then when it logs in with the Vodafone system, your watch, this guy, will function independent on my phone. My phone could go off. I could be in another part of Bombay, and it'll still be working, right? I'll be getting messages and I'll be getting calls. So I think that sort of sorts out a lot of the issues. Aman, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, when you said that, I remembered a really funny advertisement, right, that Apple put out. I think it was when the Series 3 launched, because that was the first one that had cellular on the watch. They actually showed a guy surfing in LA, surfing and talking on his watch. I don't know if how they did that, but it sort of, that's what opened it up, right? It's basically said you could be doing whatever it is you're doing. Your phone can be in any other place, and you have full access to all your calls, messages, and obviously now with AirPods, your AirPods can connect independently to your phone. So when you go for a run, if you're working out in the gym, you just leave your phone in the locker, leave it at home, and you can still have access to your calls and messages if there's anything important coming in.
And that was just the original campaign. Then I think Apple realized that they want to get into the fitness and health industry and get all that
Right.
data. And they realized how badly Google had messed up and failed with some of their original attempts at Wear OS and Android Wear and
Android
stuff like
Wear,
that. And that was the original Moto 360. I love that watch. It was a beautiful looking circular
It
watch.
looks so good.
Apple still hasn't managed it. The reason I think some of their designers work with this design, you can put in a lot more data on this sort of a screen. And if Apple does something, the world follows. So now we see an Oppo watch, which looks like an Apple clone. But we're going to get to that in a bit. What they've really amped up on the Series 6, obviously you can't get that on the SE. On the Series 6 is ECG. It started from, I think, the Series 4 onwards. ECG.
Yes.
And SpO2 has come this year with COVID and the pandemic. I think that's an important feature.
important.
But the truth is, Aman and I have tested it often, and you could have hairy hands, you could have bad positions in which you put this. It's not very effective. It costs 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. Just get a pulse oximeter. This is all right as an extra fun tool. It's not medical grade. The ECG, they did manage to get some sort of certification, but not for the SpO2. The difference in that, Aman, is that the SE now comes in. And the SE gives you all these swanky features with the S5 chip, which was last year's Apple Watch chip. And then it doesn't have an always-on display. It doesn't have an ECG. It doesn't have an SpO2. Otherwise, the watch is as good as it gets. You can't make out the difference in the two of them.
Absolutely. And I just moved from an Apple Watch Series 3 onto the Series 6, and essentially having the SE is almost like having the Series 6 and the Series 3 that I had before. And it was great. I mean, I was very happy with it. It was time for an upgrade. Obviously, my watch had slowed down and things like that. But for the most part, it was good enough. I mean, it's obviously important and it's beneficial to have some of these health features like the SpO2 monitor and ECG. But if you can do away with not having that, like Ayush said, right? We'll just buy a pulse oximeter and there, it's a little device that you can put in your pocket and take it around with you if you are that concerned about having that. And if you do want to save your money and you want something that's a little more economical, a little more affordable, I think the SE is a fantastic piece of technology. And if you're an iPhone user, definitely that's something that you want to keep in your in your list of options.
If you're really an Apple fanboy and getting into the market thinking I want to save some money, please go for the SE instead of the 6. Do not go for the 3, although it's available, because remember, it might be some $200 or be very cheap. But the truth of the matter is that the Series 3 will not be supported next year onwards.
Exactly.
And that becomes a big issue because this watchOS 7 is working. That's just to entice you guys. What they do is, when they launch the new model, the previous model is almost the same, so they discontinue it officially. That's what they're doing. That's why Series 3 is age old. But moving on, the real monster in the room, Aman, is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 3, and then of course the Active, which is a slightly slimmer version. Look, firstly, that circular design is a watch. It's a classy looking watch with a really interesting band as well, the one at least you get on stock. Unfortunately, though, it is a leather-like finish, so I don't know how water-resistant or waterproof that is. That's not ideal. But the watch has something which even you loved, which is this is just a crown.
Bezel.
The rotating bezel or the entire rotating case is wow.
And that's something that you used to get, right, on your traditional watches. Like I used to have watches even when I was like a teenager that you would have this little bezel that as a kid, you sort of play around with it and you keep moving it around. But obviously, it's used for like your stopwatch activities and tracking time, essentially. But now they've repurposed that into making it your main controlling dial, where that's how you sort of move through menus. You can quickly, quickly scroll through different applications. And I think that was really innovative of Samsung to do that. Obviously, we have our own opinions about Samsung software, and everyone has their opinion about it. Some people like it, some people don't, and that's always been, for us at least, it always was our point of sort of criticism against Samsung, is that their software was never as clean as what Android software is supposed to be, or at least what we think it's supposed to be.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, right? This watch is running on Tizen OS, and they're doing a good job. Just like their TVs are quite smooth, and let's be honest, they're right on top of the game with OLED, with QLED TVs. Sorry, I kept saying OLED. That's LG's game. QLED TVs, and you need to realize that these guys have killed it with the Watch OS. Yes. Now another thing, like Aman said, the Apple Watch only works on an iOS device. That means you need an iPhone along. So for this, you need this guy, right? That doesn't. Otherwise, you're just missing out on the party. The Samsung Watch works on iOS, but it's buggy on iOS. You're not going to enjoy you can't accept calls only on Bluetooth. It's very slow. Notifications are again a little, they're lagging. There are issues with connectivity. You have to keep reconnecting. It's not a seamless experience. So honestly, if you're buying the Samsung Watch, buy it with a Galaxy smartphone and then reap all the benefits. If you're actually picking up an Apple Watch, then you're going to be on an iPhone. This, in name only, Aman, works in both, but I don't think it really does the job, right?
I don't think it makes sense. I mean, you're gonna, you spent all this money, you got a beautiful iPhone that you love, and now you're like, ooh, getting a Samsung Galaxy Watch. I mean, I just don't think it makes sense. I mean, go for the Samsung Galaxy S21. It's a beautiful phone, right? Get that phone if you want the Samsung Galaxy Watch. Like, I know a lot of people that have actually done it the other way around, the way I'm talking about it right now, that they like the watch first, and so they get the phone that actually is built. Well, the watch was built for that phone, so you do the reverse sort of. It's reverse mechanism, right?
Yeah.
You go get the phone that works with the watch you like, and even though, like you said, the Galaxy Watch works with iOS, it's just not going to be seamless. And it's almost like saying that you're Superman, but you want to drive the Batmobile. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right?
That's true. And let's just hope that Superman's not as pissy as the Justice League movie. But let's talk about the features there, man. People were really pissed off earlier that ECG or EKG only worked in the Korean version. Now ECG is available. It also has blood pressure here, so that's good. It has SpO2. Quite similar to the Apple Watch in terms of results, slightly better battery, Aman. It also has power conservation modes, which can keep it going with limited features for a long time. Great display.
Where it beats the Apple power saver mode. Apple's power saver mode is the most crappy thing ever. It's just a watch. It's like it has a time and that's it.
When all of you guys thinking Aman and I are Apple fanboys, and this one goes out to you, the Apple Watch, this fancy thing we have on our wrists, perhaps is the worst battery on any piece of technology in the 21st century. This stupid thing doesn't even last 18 hours on a good day. So I think that's when you realize that it's not worth all that money. The Samsung Watch, giving you all those features with a Samsung phone, I mean, equivalent in terms of quality, can last even up to 2 to 3 days, depending on usage. That's the bare minimum I would expect from that watch, right? I mean, even if it lasts more than a day, I'm happy. Because this, by the night time, I just charged it right now before this recording. Mm-hmm. So I think that sucks. But otherwise, it costs almost the same for you in America, I'm guessing. In India, it's a little bit cheaper, but should we get into price for this one?
We could, but I mean, again, like I was saying, like the thing with the Samsung is that that's probably going to be your best option, right? If you want to be in this closed up ecosystem, that if you have a Samsung phone, you want a Samsung Galaxy Watch, and I know that it's pretty much the same price as the Apple Watch. It starts at about $399 out here, and then it's the same thing depending on your features, the straps you choose. It sort of varies in price. No, and I just feel like that those two are these. It's almost. I personally think it's unfair to compare price for an Apple Watch and a Samsung Watch, just because for me, they're just not devices that you compare against each other. A phone, yes, because that's sort of the driver, right? The phone's the driver, the watch is the passenger.
Fair enough.
And that's why it's like if you're getting the Apple Watch, you're getting an Apple phone, you can compare the SE and the 6 in terms of the features and which one works better for you. And with the Samsung, if you're getting the S21, you can get the Galaxy Watch 3 or the Galaxy Active, and those two you can compare the prices. But now we're going to talk about the dark horse. This is where things start getting interesting, because now it's like, okay, you like your iPhone, but you don't want the Apple Watch in the same way you like your Samsung phone, but you don't really want the Samsung Watch. Then comes in the bad boy or the dark horse, the sort of underdog that there always is. And I used a very old version of this watch, and it's the Mobvoi Ticwatch. Ticwatch 3 Pro is what's going on right now, that series, and it's definitely the underdog here, and it gives you this option that I'll let Ayush talk a little bit about it, but it's coming in and it's saying, you know what, don't forget you have this option here that can work pretty well with either ecosystems, whether you're an Apple or a Samsung.
So I know it's interesting, Aman, that you mentioned that. Now the Ticwatch is really getting a lot of traction around the world. Every review says it's the ultimate 2020-2021
Right.
smartwatch, right? Now this guy works with a lot more battery which lasts even more
Yes.
than the Samsung watch, definitely more than an Apple Watch. And now the Ticwatch has also recently been launched in the UK and a few other European countries in cellular. So now it's going like for like. It has SPO2, it has it has all the other features that these guys offer. But what it also has in an interesting way is that interoperability. You can have it on an iPhone. A person like me who keeps shuttling between Apple and OnePlus, well, I can use it on both if I want to, right? I could like unpair it here and pair it here. I mean, I think that sort of functionality is interesting. Also, it's a lot cheaper, right? It's much cheaper than these two guys, and it doesn't force me to be part of an ecosystem. It's a bunch of guys who originally, Aman, when you owned the first version, it was running on their TicOS or something like that.
TicOS,
Now, even the Google guys are proud of how Android Wear OS is
Wear
working for
OS
them,
today.
because, and do you know this? I think the founder of Mobvoi is a Chinese entrepreneur who's a former Googler. So he was at Google
Used to work
originally.
at Google.
I think it's based out of Beijing, and it also offers some more functionalities like a stress sensor, interesting things that can be done with software, hardware, integrations, and just tweaking things a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that they've done really well, that's I think very different from the Samsung and the Apple watches, is they actually have dual displays. There's actually two displays sandwiched together. One is your AMOLED, and then one's a sort of lower end LCD panel that actually is your always on display, and also is the display that you would have on when you're in power consumption mode. And that actually gives you a lot of the sort of data that you want to see, but without any of the excessive graphics that are involved, and that actually helps conserve battery. And I think that's why this watch is probably the leader, right, in terms of battery life. It says up to 3 hours, 3 days. What am I saying? 3 hours? That's horrible. Up to 3 days in smart mode, which is having you constantly switch between the two screens. But if you were to go only with the lower end screen, that watch can actually stay up to 45 days.
Correct. No, I think that's amazing. The watch looks fantastic, and I think it looks the best out of all of them for me. What some people aren't very happy about is the Mobvoi app. It's not as polished as these other two, but I think overall that's something they're working on. It's a startup, but that's these three guys, right? Now, very quickly, I want to touch upon just 2 or 3 contenders, who are completely unrelated. These are the typical smartwatch technology companies coming in, and then we'll move into a very important part of the conversation: whatever happened to Garmin and Fitbit in this conversation. Now, the other contenders, like Aman was saying, is the Oppo watch. Very quickly, it is a complete clone rip-off of the Apple Watch, but it's got a slightly different functionality. It doesn't have this crown. It looks very similar. It's not that cheap, but it looks like a slightly shoddy version of the Apple Watch. I'm not a fan, but I've been seeing it on a few wrists here in India. They're not very easy to get in America. Now, that's obviously the Oppo watch. The other one is the Huawei watches. Now, we know about Huawei's issues in the US with Google and how they're pretty much not allowed to use Google anymore. So all of these other watches we spoke about have their app stores, right? Samsung has their app store.
Right.
Apple has an app store. Even the Ticwatch and the Ticwatch has the Android app store, right? So they can pretty much use any third-party app over there. Huawei has a much better looking watch, if you ask me, than any of these guys, but they don't have access to an app store at this point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of silly spending so much money on that watch. And also, if you have your concerns about, okay, where's it coming from? Look, it's one of China's biggest brands. So yeah, then maybe you're happier with an Apple or a Samsung, because the other ones are pretty much all Chinese. Another quick contender and something that I'm waiting for, Aman. You know how much of a OnePlus fan I am. I really think that OnePlus is creating an ecosystem, and they've been working hard with Google and the Android guys, like they have on their OS in their smartphones and on their TVs, which I have used and I have done several reviews with and videos on, and I think they're fantastic. Seamless integration. Apple can take a leaf out of their book. They are apparently filing patents for a OnePlus watch, a circular watch, which they have worked in-house with Google to work on Wear OS, because they missed out in 2014, and now they're like, boss, everyone is in the game, even our brothers and sisters from Oppo and Realme, and everyone's in it, so let's just come into it ourselves. That might be a game changer, but that's maybe in March or a couple of months from now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're finally, you have your Apple ecosystem with your watch, your phone, your tablet, all of the good stuff, and then Samsung has built their ecosystem. And there's a lot of people who are like you and I. We love Android, but we don't particularly love the way Samsung approaches Android and their OS. And that's why a lot of people like us were like so attracted to OnePlus, is because they were giving you all of all of the specifications, performance, and they gave you a really clean operating system. I think it's called Oxygen OS. It's a really clean version of Android that works really well. It's super easy to get around with, and doesn't have any of the bloated stuff that Samsung that at least Samsung used to do, right? A lot of it has improved, and people are really happy today. At least the Samsung S21 has a lot of good reviews. People are saying that they finally learned their lesson with their OS. But hey, we know what Samsung has done in the past, and that is it still is a roadblock in a lot of people's minds. But OnePlus has opened that road. They've said that we're giving you all of Android's good stuff and not going to give you any of the excessive things that you don't really need on a phone. So this is going to be really interesting, and I think we're finally going to have a really good challenger to Apple's ecosystem, right? And that's what the future is. I mean, we're going to have a OnePlus event in March, I believe. They're going to launch the new phone where, everyone knows what that phone's going to look like now. There's enough rumor mills running around on the internet, and now the watch. So we're finally going to have this. We're going to have a competition, or a competitor to Apple and Samsung, and that can only mean good things, right? Because the more competition you have, that's that much harder Apple and Samsung are going to work in sort of getting their products to be even better than they are.
Yeah, you're right.
Being innovative, because I think that's the problem, where innovation seems to have, I wouldn't say stop, because things are yet being innovative, but no one's taking risks. And that's where OnePlus came in. They took the risks, and now it's like Apple and Samsung need to start taking risks again, and that's what OnePlus is going to do, right?
Correct.
They're going to come in and stir the boat.
OnePlus actually launched a band a couple of weeks ago here in India, and that's quite a cluttered market. I don't want to touch upon trackers, Aman, because fitness trackers are essentially just the OGs. Xiaomi has one, Honor does a great band, Fitbit had the original bands, Garmin has bands, but then again, those are bands. Some of those bands and some of those companies have been building upwards, and those are under $50. They've been building upwards, and now those bands or trackers are becoming a little smarter, and the line is blurring, and they're becoming smartwatches. But one I want to focus on right now is is Garmin and Fitbit. Whatever happened to Garmin and Fitbit? Now, Fitbit, it's interesting because what we're talking about now could change with the recent news and how Google has officially, I think they acquired Fitbit a while ago. It was under scrutiny, that move. I think the US authorities were investigating to make sure that Google doesn't misuse anything that Fitbit's doing with their 20, 30 million users' data. But now we know that Google has bought Fitbit, and they're going to be working with the best software perhaps out there. That team is going to be working with perhaps some of the best OG hardware out there for
Absolutely.
a product. Now, do you think these guys, especially with the Fitbit Versa and some of the other options which look like a smartwatch, and then the Garmin range, the Phoenix, the Forerunner, and the other ones, do you think they stand a chance to take on the Apples and the Samsungs and the Ticwatches?
It's Garmin is you spoke about it, like Garmin is very I think the consumer that would use a Garmin is a very focused consumer who wants it for something very particular, like a runner. I mean, definitely go and get the Samsung Forerunner. I mean, it's made for you.
The Garmin
And then
Forerunner.
the Garmin Forerunner, exactly. And then you also have the Felix Series 6 or Phoenix Series 6, which is like, I think it's like $900, and it's probably the best for any kind of GPS tracking and fitness. And then you also, coming back to Fitbit, and Fitbit is the company that sort of started this trend and of wearable tech, or at least wearable wrist technology. And I think that Google's acquisition of Fitbit is kind of huge because, Google sort of has changed, right? Their newest smartphone, right? It's not a flagship. It's not supposed to take on the Apple's or the Samsung flagship phones. It's sort of more in the mid-range, your Fan Edition or your OnePlus Nord sort of range of device, right? So I think Google is now. This is me just, suspecting what's going to happen or just thinking what might happen with Google's acquisition of Fitbit is I think Google are finally going to come up with a wrist wearable piece of technology that is going to be like, I don't know, maybe it's called a Pixel Watch. I don't know what it's going to be called, but I think that's what Google is eventually going to do because when they started their hardware division, that's what they did, right? They went and got the best people from the best other companies to set up their hardware division. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I think Fitbit is going to benefit from this because they're going to get better in terms of their software. And then Google's going to say, okay, we're giving you all this amazing software. Now we'll take your hardware and build something that is going to be this pure Google device.
And they always...
And again, I mean, I'm speculating.
And they always do this good stuff, Aman. Think about it. I mean, if you think of Fitbit by itself, Fitbit's innovated like crazy, right? I mean, some of the features they had, like temperature. I mean, skin temperature, sweat sensors, stress sensors. These are things that even Fitbit really upped the game. And I think this sort of innovation is needed, and we might reach some sort of gold standard when it comes to fitness trackers and watches. But let's see. So the moral of the story is if you're in it for a smart watch or a tracker, we've sort of laid it out for you. It's a big market. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's so much bigger. But it gets better and better, and this is just the beginning. Like they say, this was the trailer, picture abhi baki hai. And Aman, exactly. I'll tell you something. The moral of the story is that look, Apple's doing well in its space, but Apple has its own space. The Android guys are getting together and they are doing some crazy things. And do remember, when Fitbit and Google work and make their OS better, when Ticwatch sends diagnostics and analytics and makes the OS better with more rampant usage of it, and when OnePlus is working with them on, that just only means one thing. It all points to one direction. That direction is that Wear OS is going to be on another level in a short while from now. So Apple, Samsung, don't get complacent. Google is coming, and that is the future of wearables. And that's what, and if you think about what Mark Zuckerberg is doing with Facebook as well, and how he wants to invest in augmented reality, don't be surprised if Amazon and Facebook come into some of the tracking, because they need that data, right? Everyone needs that fitness data, and that health data. And people are getting more conscious about these things. So it's going to be an interesting race where all the big boys are going to be in it. But yes, the first movers better not get complacent. And well, let's hope for the best for the others.
Absolutely. you said it in the best way you possibly could, or anyone possibly could. I think it's just going to get really exciting with what's happening.
So disruptions is what all of us geeks really look out for. And this is a space waiting to be disrupted. Talking about disruptions, I'm glad you guys are liking the podcast. Show it some love on Spotify, because I believe that's where you guys are enjoying it the most. Of course, we're on YouTube if you want to see these pretty faces, but we are focusing on Spotify as well. So please download, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tag us on Instagram if there's anything you like about it as well. I'm the Ayush Alavadi, that's Aman Shet 007. We're going to be signing off right now and coming back very soon. And I think something special is brewing, but I'm not going to reveal just yet what we're going to talk about. Aman, I'm going to say goodbye to you, good night to you, and to everyone tuned in. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Goodbye for now.